Hello, my name is Christina Ng and I am a pastry chef. And this year I am so excited to be partnering up with Vitasoy for their Bake Better with Tofu campaign. And the first actual cake that we're going to be making is a green tea tofu mousse cake, and it is delicious. Sansui has this silken tofu that purees and blends really creamy, really well, and it really helps to deliver that green tea flavor, and it packs quite a punch. The first thing that we're actually going to be doing is that cookie crust, and it's a pretty easy cookie crust. I use actually tea biscuits for these because it's a little bit less sweet and you can control the sweetness a little bit. And I have these actually into pretty coarse crumbs, and you can just take something like this, put it in a Ziploc bag, and then pound it with whatever you have on handy. And they're pretty coarse because I like it for its texture, and the little bit of moisture from the mousse cake actually kind of softens this a little bit and it turns it a little bit more cakey. So I have a couple cups of the cookie crumbs right here, and I'm just going to be adding in several tablespoons of butter. And nothing too fancy. I will just be kind of coating them in with a fork. Oops, messy cook. And then I will just put it into an 8-inch springform pan. And the springform pan is actually really important because later on you're going to want this cake to obviously come out. So this will ensure that everything is good. All right, so tofu time. I am going to be putting in about a half a block of tofu for about a third of a cup. And I'm just gonna make sure that this lid is nice and tight. You just blend generally. Okay, so you want the tofu to be actually nice and thick and creamy like this. So I'm actually going to be putting in a third of a cup of my smooth pureed tofu right in. You don't have to be too exact. So there you go. Put that to the side. And then I'm going to be adding about 2 tablespoons of matcha powder. Now, if you guys like it pretty strong, you can add a little bit more, but this is actually, I think, a pretty good amount. And matcha powder is really good because it's really packed with green tea flavor because it uses the whole green tea leaf. So I'm going to be making that custard base of the green tea mousse cake, and I am adding in a 1/4 cup of the Vitasoy unsweetened refrigerated soy milk to this, and then to that, I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of honey. And I like using honey with green tea because honey is really floral and it pairs really well with that deep tea flavor. I'm going to just put this on at around medium-high heat just so that the honey melts. And then once that gets good and hot, I am going to be adding a little bit of gelatin into this. And the gelatin just really helps that pastry cream set, which is what we're doing. And then once all of the gelatin melts, you don't want to bring it to a boil because you don't want to boil the gelatin. I have 2 egg yolks right here, and the egg yolks will serve as a nice thickener, and it'll be nice and rich for the cream. But you temper so that the egg yolks get used to the temperature of the cream so that it doesn't scramble. I'm gonna pour it back in, and then you basically want to be whisking pretty vigorously because I do not want any of this egg to cook. And you want to be doing it for about 30 seconds to a minute, just until the mixture thickens up just a bit and coats the back of a spoon. You want to set this aside and let it cool before we add our pureed tofu to it. I have kind of my cooled custard mixture right here, and then I have that green tea mixture. So I am just going to try to get every little bit because green tea powder is not cheap. So, all right, just move that in. Okay, and then probably better to do it with a whisk first, just so that you can get everything incorporated. Look at how nice that green tea looks. Yum. I actually have a cup of whipping cream right here that I whipped with a little bit of sugar. And what the sugar does is it actually helps balance out the honey a little bit, which although is really floral, can come off slightly sour. And so this kind of corrects for it while still not making it too sweet. So you're just gonna kind of gently fold it, trying not to deflate the whipped cream too much. Now I'm just going to pour this mixture right in to my cake pan. And I love this cake because green tea pairs really well with not just the tofu, but also with the honey. It's a classic kind of blend. And then with an offset spatula, kind of want to gently just bring these over to the sides And to just smooth the top a little bit, because although we're going to be putting a layer of ganache on top, it's going to be pretty thin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cake, I'm going to take it over to the refrigerator, and I'm going to let it set for about 2 hours until the gelatin sets up. All right, so I'm going to be making the green tea ganache for the top of the cake, and I have some white chocolate over a double boiler melting in the back. And what I'm actually going to do first is, because green tea matcha powder acts a lot like cornstarch, I do want to try to get rid of the lumps first. And the way to do that is to blend it with a small whisk or a fork in a little bit of cold soy milk. And I am using Vitasoy refrigerated unsweetened soy milk. Okay, and once you get the lumps out of that, I will just be heating a little bit of that unsweetened soy milk over about medium-high heat. And see, once this gets hot, I will be adding a 1/4 teaspoon of bloomed gelatin. And what bloomed gelatin is it's just rehydrated gelatin. So you take a little bit of the gelatin and then you mix it with a couple tablespoons of water. And what that does is it rehydrates the gelatin and it makes it a lot easier to melt in your mix. And you don't want this to get too hot because you don't want to burn the gelatin. And what I'm going to do right now is we're just going to turn off the heat. I'm going to be adding the green tea mixture in. Okay. And it's good to keep this hot, because what this mixture will do is we'll pour it right on top of the white chocolate, and it'll help us melt some of that chocolate as well. I have some melted chocolate right here, and then I have that green tea mixture that I mixed right in. So I'm just going to pour that right in. This will be really nice because it'll make the tops of the cake really nice and smooth and nice and shiny. Okay, so I'm just mixing this until it gets nice and smooth. Pour this right onto our cake. So I just want to spread it around the cake to get it pretty smooth and to hit the corners. This gets set into the refrigerator for about 1 to 2 hours until the ganache sets. And voila, here's my finished cake. I just shaved some white chocolate shavings up on top to make it a little bit more festive. So for this recipe and more, visit myvitasoy.com so that you guys can bake better with tofu.